What's up guys, Phoenix here, and today's video is going to be the regional report that I told you I was going to do in my deck profile video that was up yesterday. And I'm basically just going to kind of just explain what I, went through during the regional because it was very strange. Like, I didn't really care at that point about, whether or not I was going to have to make a regional report video or not. So normally at every other regional I start, going to, I take like extensive notes on what I play against, what happens during games, and all that. But this regional, I started doing that, and then I was like, wait a second, why am I doing this? And after like round 3, I stopped. So basically, my shady ass memory is going to be called into question a lot more than it normally would. And for those of you who are new to the picture of how I like to do regional recaps or regional reports, this is just something I like to do, just to give it a nice, picture, because I'm a very artistic person, and I like everything to look nice, and I like, curvatures and staggering things and all that, and I like to make cards into like some sort of coolish design. Never mind the fact that I just looked at the picture of what's being recorded on my screen and it looks like a frowning face. Never mind that. But moving on. Anyway, so entered the regional, and the regional ended up starting late as usual. They always typically do, um, around where I'm situated in the country. But at about 12:30, the pairings finally go up. About 12:45, the round finally starts. Um, and my round one matchup was against Dark Worlds, and it happened to be the kid's first regional. He was a good player, but he had never attended a regional before. And he didn't have anything to side deck for me, so I returned, and I returned the favor, did a respectable thing, and I did not side against him either, because he didn't have anything he could side against me, and I was like, I'm not just, if it's your first regional, I'm gonna give you a little bit of slack. Now, if we'd gone to game 3, maybe I would have sided, but no, it's Dark Worlds. The entire Dragon deck does what Dark World tries to do better, because every single dragon is a Grapha that replaces itself with essentially another Grapha when you summon the first Grapha. So, anyway, so 2-0'd him, and then round 2, I play against another Dark World player, only this one's playing Dark World Turbo, and this one's more frequent to the regional scene. Game 1, he fucks me up with a Gozen match and a skill drain on the board at the same time, because he was maining Gozen match. So, my side deck card for him, I side deck DD Crow, Divine Wraths, MSTs, Dark Hole, all these things just to like clear his board and keep his things from going off. And then I just beat him down games 2 and 3. Game 2 was the game that I was referring to in my regional and my deck profile video, where I recycled the same DD Crow 2 more times to use it 3 times in the same game. Grapho was just nowhere to be found. Round 3, I play a Dragoonity Ruler Mirror. Game 1, I completely blow him out of the water because he does a complicated string of plays and ends up forgetting his Tempest Search off of a sword. And that ends up putting me, in enough of a position to just win instead of having to parry advantage back and forth. And then game 2, he opens better than I did. And I was trying to fight back, but I wanted to, if it got too late in the time, to just tactically scoop game 2 and go to game 3, so that I didn't force the match into a draw. But unfortunately for me, there was some fat ass staying in front of the clock the entire time. And when I finally got around, when a judge wandered by and I asked the judge how much time was left, because he could see the clock, he was like, "Oh, there's about a minute and 30 seconds left." I'm like, "Shit." So I just scoop to try and go to game 3, and right when we present our decks to cut to go into game 3, time is called, and there's a judge already standing there, and he's like, "You do not start game 3, it's a draw." And I'm like, damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it. So I end up taking a draw really early, and I thought that's kind of why I stopped taking notes, because I kind of thought that would just fuck me over the rest of the day. But it turns out that it didn't. So I go on round 4 to play Evilswarms, and this is a guy that goes to my locals. So I knew he was playing Evilswarm the second I sat down. I lost the die roll, and he opens Ophion set 4, and I can't get enough blaster plays culminated together to make enough plays, because once I blaster his Ophion, he just, he just stops my duck summons and everything. So I go to game 2. I go first, and I open Scrap Dragon, Dracossack with tokens, and that's a very strong opening against Evilswarms. They can't really make a comeback off of that. And I had the warning for the Bahamut when he tried to summon it, and then I in-phase decreed him, so we just go straight into game 3. Now, game 3, I legitimately thought I was going to lose, because there was a point in the game where he has a D-Fissure face up, 3 set traps, and an Ophion on board. And he has no other cards in hand. And what I have is I have Phalanx in the grave. I don't have Ravine. All I have is a set Decree on the field. And my hand is Mistleton, Blaster, Ducks, Tempest. So I am in a very, very, very bad position because Ophion is just staring at my ass. So I draw for turn and I rip the sword. So I play the sword, banish the Tempest, draw 2. I draw MST cards of consonants. And I'm like, yes. He tried to chain Mystical Ref Panel to my sword, and I chained Decree to that. Because that was one of his sets. The other 2 sets, I think, were Torrential Tribute and Divine Wrath. Things that ended up being irrelevant because the Decree was chained. So I end up getting the MST consonants off the sword, and Tempest searches me another Phalanx. I MST the D-Fissure, play cards of consonants, discarding the Phalanx, and drawing 2. I draw Dragon Ravine and the second blaster. And I'm like, yes, time to win. So I blaster his Ophion away, and then I just go in, and I end up ending my field with an Atum and a Dracossack. So he has no cards in hand. He draws for turn, and he can't really make any comebacks off of it, and I just beat him from there. So I just pulled that one out of my ass, and I'm just like feeling really good about myself. So I go into round 5, and I'm playing against Tidal Mermails, and this is I 2-0 him, but this is the coolest guy I played the entire day, and it was the most fun game I think I've ever played in Yu-Gi-Oh! In a long time. Game 1, I just smash him. I establish a very early Crimson Blader lock on him, and he can't really do much about it. Game 2, I can't remember much about what happened during the game, but we consecutively kept putting each other under Crimson Blader. And that's how the game started, was I put him under Crimson Blader, and then he heavy infantryed my Blader, and then made his own Blader to get over my Stardust, and then I blasted his Blader away and tried to set some defense for the next turn. He tried to make a play, and I stopped it, and then he passed. Now, at this point, we're going later and later into the game, and it gets to the point where I have to make a push. We both have to make a push if we want to win that game. So I go to summon Ducks and I start doing a regular Atum play, and he max sees me. So at this point, I can't really stop. So I let him draw 8 cards off of the Atum combo that I end up doing, and I end up big eyeing his lead, his Abyss lead, and doing things like that, and hit him down for near lethal. And I have a Max C in my hand because mid combo I used Ptolemy to add Max C back to my hand from grave. So next turn, I just drop Max C in a standby phase. I'm like, fuck it. If you got anything like Aqua Spirit or anything like that, I'm gonna draw for those bastards. So he takes a little bit to think. He looks at me and he laughs. He's like, I'm not stopping, and he tries to make a play. And I just have a bunch of answers for it, but he lets me draw 10 cards. It was just the most ignorant thing in the world. Neither one of us wanted to stop under the Max C. And it was the most fun game I've ever had in a while, just because it was just like, how do I efficiently do this? And he was just like, how do I win? It was so much fun, and the guy was cool with it the entire time. It was really cool. He was really fun to just sit and chat with and do whatever. He was a really fun opponent. But end up 2-0ing him. Then I can move on to round 6, where I play the first and only Prophecy matchup that I end up playing for the day. Game 1, I win the die roll and I go first. So I just open with Stardust, Ptolemy, Red Eyes, and set warning. And I'm warning his Spellbook Magician, and he can't really come back from that because he can't fate me or anything like that. Game 2, I Divine Wrath his Spellbook Magician, and then I start to have a problem with establishing early, and I end up locking myself out under Reckless. But it gets to a point in the game where I remove from play my one Phalanx Engrave. I have an on-field Zephyros that I've been trying to poke with. I remove from play my Phalanx from the grave and a Tempest from my hand to summon Blaster. And I use the Tempest to search Mistleton. And I have Return set. I drew into the return, but I didn't have anything really major to play off of it. But now I have a Blaster, a Tempest, and a Phalanx banished because I had a Blaster banished earlier from a sword that I played turn 1. And so I go to attack his monster, whatever he had out, and he fates my Blaster away. So at that point, I chain space from my hand on his other back row, which ended up just being irrelevant, and then I flip return for game, and ended up just 2-0ing him that way. So I didn't end up seeing any of my side like Eradicator or anything like that. None of my blowout cards. But all in all, the dude had a really cool build. He was playing more of a trap heavy build, and he wasn't playing World, which is World is really good against dragons. So I guess it was a little bit weird for him, but it was a Justice Kaiku build that made a lot of traps, and it was pretty cool. He showed me his build after the match, and I liked it a lot. If there was ever a Prophecy deck I'd play, it'd be that build. But anyway, then I move on to round 7 to play another Tidal Mermail kid, and it was like he had never topped a regional before or gotten his invites, and game 1 I just did the entire match. I had him convinced that I wasn't actually playing Dragoony Rulers until game 3, because game 1 I just opened Ravine Phalanx Mistleton with Vandy's Emptiness and a Bottomless and just won the game. And then game 2, I was talking. So he was asking me, what I thought about the Dragoony Ruler deck because I was just like talking shit about it during game 1. I was like, it doesn't do this as consistently. All the plays that I was doing, and then game 2 he sided Vanity's Fiend against me, and he dropped it turn 1. And I was like, I don't know why you think that's a good side against me. My deck runs Legionnaires. Just doing the craziest things. Saying the craziest things, just bullshitting the entire time. But my hand was completely dead, whether or not that Vanity's Fiend was on the field or not. And I ended up just quickly losing due to the fact that I couldn't even draw Ravine to search for my Legionnaires. And then game 3, I just opened Sword, Tempest, and a bunch of Dragon Rulers, and he's like, oh, I thought that build was bad. I was like, yeah, it's pretty bad. Doesn't mean I'm not going to play it, though. And I laughed at him, and we had a laugh about that, and then I just beat his shit in because I'm playing Dragoony Rulers, and he sided out all the cards that were for the Dragoony Ruler matchup because I was so good at convincing him that I wasn't running it. Mind tricks, motherfucker. Mind tricks. I got lots of them. But anyway, he was really cool about it, and he was more disappointed that he let himself be tricked over anything. And I just told him, I was like, dude, just win the next 2, and you have a guaranteed invite. Win the next 1, and you still have more than likely an invite, because it was cutting the top 48, because it was 441 players total. But anyway, moved on to round 8, and I played against Bujins, which is actually one of my friends, Jonathan Nago. And it's one of those things that we play each other at a lot of regionals that we enter, and we kind of go back and forth on it, but this time it was just my day to win. He ends up resolving a 6 cents against me for 6 cards. I rolled a 6 for him. I was like, here, have these. Game 1, I just won. Game 2, he resolved the 6 cents for 6 cards, and but I ended up establishing board presence because I had Decree up and just ended up doing things that put me in a more favorable position than him. And I ended up just making Colossal Fighter with 2 other big dragons and just continuously swinging my Colossal Fighter into his Yamato to get all the cranes out of his hand to end up going for game. Um, I was too able to capitalize on the fact that I had a decree on board the turn after he played a 6 cents. That it let me win the game. Decree is just one of those blanket protection cards. It's just really good against decks like Bujins. So it just makes it where all you have to worry about is the cranes and what's in the graveyard. It definitely whittles down threat level of the deck by a shit ton. But ended up 2-0ing him and then go to play round 9, and I'm sitting at table 2 and I'm like, I want to win. At this point I just want the fucking Star Eater mat. And I also knew that there were additional price support like Joey's Worlds and two more mats and things like that. So I wanted that too because I'm a greedy motherfucker. So I ended up playing against Dragon Rulers, but it's the Blue Eyes build, and I 2-0 him. Game 1, I just opened better than he did. He went first, and all he could do was sword away a Tempest and grab Corseska, and then set a back row and end. On my turn, my hand wasn't very live, but I had things that would prevent me from being killed. I had like double Reckless and a Bottomless, so I set them all and didn't make a play to try and win the field spell war as well as bait him to making a play. And because there was 3 back row there on his next turn, he ended up making a Stardust and swinging, which gave me all the food I needed to lock him under a Blader and kill him. So I drew for turn, flipped my double Reckless, got my play going, ended up having a Crimson Blader with a Blaster out when all was said and done, and then hit him with those. And then next turn he just couldn't do anything under Blader, and he couldn't win because I had enough damage on board. So he had to keep setting monsters into the Blader, and at that point I had Ravine anyway, even being locked under Reckless. So I just won game 1. Game 3, his hand was pretty bad as well. He resolved a bunch of draw cards. He resolved Sword and like double cards constants. But his ending play ended up being just like set 4 pass. And I started playing through the back row. I had 1 MST in hand, so I just started using the big dragons and the ravines to play through the back row as much as I could. He had MST for my first ravine. He Raigeki braked my second one, so he was left with 2 sets left. And I just I summoned Ducks into a Max C, and made I summoned Ducks Phalanx into a Max C and made a Psyhemoth and swung with it. And I set Book of Moon in my MST. And then on his turn, he tried to Phoenix Wing Wind Blast one of my sets, and he targeted my set MST, and I chained it, targeting his other back row, and that just put him in a very bad position because he took a -2 off that Phoenix Wing. And he ended up trying to make a Crimson Blader, or trying to make a Scrap Dragon to pop my Psyhemoth and swing. But I had the Book of Moon for the Scrap Dragon, and then next turn I just had Blaster, Tempest, and the Psyhemoth just go in for game. So all in all, it wasn't a very good situation for him. So after round 9, it was like 1:30 in the morning. After filling out another invite sheet and accepting my prize support, didn't leave the venue until about 2 a.m. So I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh! For 14 hours. And for 9 rounds, the regional had a lot of bumps in the road along the way. But all in all, it was all right. I can honestly say that the only thing I enjoyed about it was the fact that I was there with my friends, and that my other friends got invites as well. Like I'd already told them in the beginning of the day, if we played, that depending on what round it is and what our records are, if we played, that I would just give them the win so they could go get their invites because they needed them. But being able to just take another top 4 finish with the deck that I love is just it's a great feeling. I like the fact that my deck just happens to be the best deck of the format, and the fact that every mirror I've played so far, I don't have to think about my moves at all. I have so much of an inherent advantage over everyone else simply because of being who I am. That it's so much fun. Like people that take like 10 minutes for their turn to do like a basic play, I do an extremely elaborate play immediately without even like basically looking at my hand once, and then I worry about follow-ups. It's a great feeling. But anyway, this is a long-ass regional report, but I had some things to discuss, and pulling from memory is a little bit slower than reading off paper like I usually do. But as always, guys, comment, rate, subscribe. Click an ad if you have not. I would greatly appreciate it. It helps me make money, and there's no reason to lie to you guys about that. It's just something to help me out, and I'd appreciate it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. If you want to help me out, do it by all means. But anyway, as always, guys, take care. See you next time.